Hello everyone, it's Hannah here from Virtually Fluent. Welcome to today's grammar video where we will be talking about two key words, will and shall, in English. We will look at both the similarities and the differences, quickly review the structures, and hopefully you will be able to use both will and shall correctly in English. So let's get started with today's video on will and shall. Both will and shall have a lot of similarities in English. They're both used in the same way as modal verbs. This means that they are never followed by the word to. They must be followed by the infinitive form of the verb, and the great thing is that their form is exactly the same for every single subject in English. For example, I will go to the shops, I shall go to the shops. Now, generally, both of them are used to express the future form, some sort of event happening in the future. If we put those examples of going to the shops on a timeline, it would look something like this. So let's quickly look at the structure of both of these verbs. Let's take will first. You can see that it is exactly the same for every single subject. I will, he will, we will. And as I've already said, it's followed by the infinitive form of the verb. Now remember, we can contract these words in English, so we end up with I'll, you'll, he'll, she'll, it'll, we'll, and they'll. Will in its negative form can either be used in its long form, which is will not, but that can also be contracted to won't. I won't read, they won't read. Again, the same for every subject. And as a question, all we do is flip our subject and that word will, and our infinitive verb follows after. Will I read? If you want to add a question word, that would go right at the very beginning. What will I read? Now, shall is almost identical. We start with our subject and then we use the word shall, identical for every subject, and finally our infinitive verb. For example, I shall read or they shall read. Now, historically, this word should only have ever been used in the I form and in the we form, in those first person forms. However, nowadays you may hear people using shall with any of the subjects, but historically only really with I and we. Again, shall can be contracted, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because both shall and will are contracted in exactly the same way. I'll, we'll, they'll. As a negative form, we just insert that word not, shall not. And shall not can also be contracted into shan't with a nice long R sound. I shan't read, we shan't read. As a question, all we do is flip our word shall and the subject and pop our infinitive on the end. Shall I read? Shall we read? So the only real difference between these in terms of their structure is which subjects it should be used with. As I said, historically, I and we with shall, but really any subject with will. There are a couple of other little differences I would like to draw your attention to. Nowadays, when we are speaking, will is much more commonly used and it's recognized as being slightly more informal and shall slightly more formal. However, they are both all used in the same way that we would use the future forms of will. This would be a spontaneous future decision, true future facts, personal predictions, promises, and threats. You can see all of these examples here. If you would like to recap why we use the simple will future as opposed to the going to future or the present forms in the future, then you can check out our basic future course. I will leave the link to that also in the description below. Now, shall is used in exactly the same way for all of those 5 reasons. As I said, just a little bit more formal. Now, the second thing that I would like to draw your attention to is when we use these in their question forms, the meaning is a little bit different, only in their question forms. And this is because shall is a lot more determined. It's a lot stronger. You're almost making a suggestion to the person, helping them make their decision. Let's put this into an example. Will we go to the party? Is a very open question. The person who is going to respond has a 50-50 choice. Yes, we go. No, we don't go. With the question shall we go to the party? You are pushing the person to say yes. You're sort of helping them make the decision towards yes. It's a lot more determined in the question form. Now, both of these verbs do have past forms as well. Will becomes would and shall becomes should. And of course, they're used in their past forms when we're talking in any of our past tenses. Also in reported speech, they both change from will and shall to would and should. And generally in tag questions, you will see them with their would and should forms too. But that's everything that you need to learn about will and shall in English. If you would like to double check how to use these, see lots of example sentences, or put this learning into practice really, you can check out our will and shall grammar course. This has some online games, quizzes, activities, worksheets, just to help you on your way with this topic. And I will leave the link to that in the description below. If you learned something new today, go ahead and give us a thumbs up, a like. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Virtually Fluent YouTube channel, and also to hit that notification bell so you know exactly when we release a new weekly video on English grammar, pronunciation, vocabulary, or just general skills in the English learning process. But that's everything for today. This is Hannah from Virtually Fluent, bringing English to life.